Section 4 in Chapter 4 is titled Solving Equations by Multiplying or Dividing. So we want to talk about two properties again today. The first one is the division property of equality, which says when you divide each side of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides remain equal. So it's very similar to the addition and the subtraction properties. So for any numbers a, b, and c, where c does not equal 0, if a equals b, then you can divide both sides by the same number, c, and your equation is still equal. So in the examples, we have 1.8 equals 1.8. We divide both sides by 2, and we get 0.9 equals 0.9. For the equation, 4x equals 24. Remember, x here is being multiplied by 4. So in order to solve the equation, we want to divide by 4. So this is the division property. Divide both sides by 4, we get x equals 6. So let's look at some examples. Solve each equation by dividing and check your solution. Again, on the worksheet, I'll have you check your solution on a handful of the problems, but it's not required that you do it for all of them. And I think on this first example, I want to change this number. Let's do 15. And you'll see in a second why I did that. Hello? Hi. No, I gave 4. Yeah, I cut it down the middle. Yep, bye. Okay, so for number 1, we have 5c equals 15. So the question is, what do we want to divide both sides by in order to solve the equation? And we always want to undo or do the opposite of what's being done to c. Right now it's being multiplied by 5, so we want to divide both sides by 5. We get c equals 3. Now we want to check our solution. Remember, you plug the answer back into the original equation. So our check would be 5 times 3, and we're checking, does that equal 15? And in fact, 5 times 3 is 15, so our solution is correct. Number 2, we have negative 54 equals 6x. 6 is being multiplied by x, so we want to divide both sides by 6. Those 6's will cancel. Remember, that 6 over 6 fraction becomes a 1, which is what we want to get in front of that x. What is negative 54 divided by 6?
Miranda Hale, please come to the main office. Miranda Hale.
54 divided by 6 is 9, but remember it's a negative divided by a positive, so our answer is negative 9. Now we need to check our solution. Negative 54, what is 6 times negative 9? So we get negative 54 equals 6 times negative 9, positive times a negative is a negative, 6 times 9 is 54. So our answer works. Try this last one on your own. See if you can come up with the correct solution and check. So pause the video and then hit play when you're finished. So we want to divide both sides by 7 because we're multiplying by 7. This is the division property. Dividing both sides by the same number keeps the equation equal. 63 divided by 7 is 9. We're going to take 7 times 9 to check our solution. Does it equal 63? 7 times 9 is 63, so it equals 63, and our solution checks out. The next property, the last property, is the multiplication property of equality. This says when you multiply each side of an equation by the same number, the two sides remain equal. So for any numbers a, b, and c, if a equals b, then we have ca equals cb. Notice both sides are being multiplied by c, so the equation is still equal. And here we can take a look at the examples. We've got negative 3 equals negative 3. Multiplying both sides by 4, we get negative 12 equals negative 12. And on the left, or on the right, the equation x divided by 5, or x over 5, equals negative 3. And we want to try to figure out how do we get that fraction, or that 5, out of the bottom. Well, if x is being divided by 5, then we want to multiply both sides by 5. So we multiply both sides by 5. Those 5's are going to cancel, and we're just left with x equals 5 times negative 3, which is negative 15. So let's check an equation here. Solve each equation by multiplying and then check your solution. So we have y being divided by 5. What's the opposite of division, or excuse me, y being divided by 4. What's the opposite of division by 4? That'd be multiplication by 4. But whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So the 4's will cancel here. That's why we pick 4, because that's what y is being divided by. So we get y equals negative 32. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. If we check our solution, we need to plug negative 32 back in for y and then rewrite the equation. What is negative 32 divided by 4? That's negative 8, so our solution checks out. Try number 5 on your own. Solve each equation by multiplying, then check your solution. 7 equals x divided by negative 2. So we want to multiply both sides by whatever x is being divided by, and that is a negative 2. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. But what happens on the right? Remember, the numbers are going to cancel, we're just left with x. So when we check our solution, we have 7 equals, plug in the answer for x, divide it by negative 2. So 7 equals, what's negative 14 divided by negative 2? That's a positive 7, and your solution checks out. The last example is a little more confusing. We want to solve the equation by multiplying and check the solution. So first we have to see what's happening here. X is being multiplied by a negative 3/5. Well, if we go all the way back to the division property of equality, if x is being multiplied by that, then we want to divide by that. We want to divide both sides by that. But remember what it means to divide by a fraction. Dividing by a fraction is the same as what? And hopefully you're saying multiply or multiplying by its reciprocal. So what do? Instead of dividing by a negative 3/5, we want to multiply by a negative 5/3. So I've taken the original equation here, the negative 3/5 x, and I've multiplied it by a negative 5/3. That means I need to do the same thing to the other side. I need to multiply by a negative 5/3. Remember, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Well, on the left side, the 5s, the 3s, and the negatives all cancel, and you're just left with x. What happens on the right-hand side? Multiply, remember multiplying a fraction by a whole number? You can put it over 1, or we take negative 6 times the numerator negative 5, that's 30, and we divide it by 3. This answer reduces. You always want to reduce your fractions. What is 30 divided by 3? It is 10. And why is my answer positive? Because a negative times a negative is a positive. We want to check our solution by plugging in 10 for x. So what happens here? We get negative 30 over 5. We have it equal to negative 6. Well, what is negative 30 divided by 5? It is negative 6. That answer checks out, so it is correct. So anytime you see a variable being multiplied by a fraction, you want to multiply it by its reciprocal, because that is the same as dividing by that fraction. In class, we'll work on worksheet 4.4.